Welcome everyone to the Lo-Fi Poli-Sci Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Pickering. That's right, Lo-Fi as in low fidelity, low quality, in your face, messy as can be global news show. Here we're going to talk about that famous question, what's going on in the world today? We'll be covering 5 headlines from across the globe and then choose one to go into a more detailed analysis. And that's right, folks, it's Monday, time for that weekend recap. The news, fresh off the press. Source, AP News International. Taliban warns peace deal with U.S. near breaking point. We've been keeping up with the peace process here at Lo-Fi, and a new update. The Taliban states that the U.S. and the Afghani government are not keeping up their end of the bargain struck in February, while further stating that they have done more than their part of the bargain, and more by meaning reducing the number of attacks in certain places. However, it should be noted that attacks are continuing in other places. The implications. The U.S., Afghani government, and the Taliban are going back and forth with the blame of peace talks failing time after time. This doesn't appear to be anything new to the reports from recent years. Stabilizing the country has been the discussion since the U.S. invaded in 2003. The question to Lo-Fi students, is this time different? Can and will the peace talks actually move forward in a positive direction? Write in and let me know your thoughts. Next up, source, BBC News, World Section. Cyclone Harold. Superstorm hits Vanuatu after killing 27 in Solomons. Vanuatu is a South Pacific island country east of Australia, consisting of over 80 islands and around 300,000 people. The reported storm had winds of up to 135 miles an hour. The implications. While much of our attention is directed in one direction at the moment, it's important for us to remember there are other crises around the globe that warrant our attention. Hurricanes, cyclones, earthquakes, and tsunamis are destructive forces anywhere in the world. But for an island state with a World Bank 2018 reported GDP per capita of just over $3,000 a year, this story should remind us that people everywhere are suffering. If we can, we should do our part to help. Our thoughts are with you, Vanuatu. Our following story, a disaster that is anything but natural. Source, AP News International. Ukraine continues to battle forest fires near Chernobyl. In case you're wondering, Lo-Fi listeners, yes, it's that Chernobyl, the one that had the nuclear reactor explosion in the 1980s and the area that remains mostly uninhabited today due to lingering levels of high radiation. I choose my next words very carefully, listeners. Some 27-year-old genius likes to play with fire, and things got out of hand. The implications, or rather, the questions. Are we really that bored in today's world? Do we really not have enough going on already? That someone would actually think starting a prairie fire next to a radioactive site would be either fun or okay? The answers: no, yes, no, and no, respectively, and moving on. Now it's time for our headline in the Spotlight segment. Source, Reuters, World Section. UN finds highly probable Syrian government allies targeted school, hospitals. Last year, an investigation began to look into the attacking of these hospitals and school, coming off of previous claims that the Assad regime had also used chemical weapons in the past, which are banned by international law. As of yet, the Syrian government has not responded to the new report, which is being given to the UN Security Council for review and potential action. The background and implications of this story. This civil war has been going on since 2011. Its devastation felt across the globe as war refugees across borders trying to find sanctuary where they may. While the war may be coming to a conclusion, as the Assad regime has reclaimed most of the country, it's sadly, normally, not until wars conclude that we truly find out how horrid they really are. The questions to Lo-Fi Poli-Sci listeners. Will the UN Security Council act on this investigation? Will Russia, being an Assad ally in the war, veto any actions? If crimes against humanity and war crimes apply to all humans and countries across the globe, why is it we find it so hard to protect them? Write in, Poli-Sci people, and let me know your thoughts. And a last piece of news from the AP section, Science. Catch this week's supermoon, biggest and brightest of the year. That's right, we may come at you hard and lo-fi and raw about the realities of the world, but boy do we like our science. This week, starting today, the moon will be full and at its closest distance to the planet this year, providing a bright and shiny star in the sky for all of us to behold. And yes, the moon is a star. And yes, so is the Earth. And yes, Pluto is a planet. We here at Lo-Fi firmly disagree with Neil deGrasse Tyson's bias and discriminatory claims, so much to say anything but Pluto is beautiful and bold, and a planet. The implications. Wherever you are in the world tonight, Lo-Fi listeners, look up. See that shiny space, and know I'm right there with you, looking at the same beautiful sky as you. And remember, we're never alone. You're always with me, as I am always with you, Lo-Fi Nation. And that's a brief snapshot of what's going on in the world today. Please write in with your questions, comments, or requests of countries for our new segments coming up this week. Write into Lo-Fi Poli-Sci at planetmail.com. That's Lo-Fi, L-O-F-I, Poly, P-O-L-I, Sci, S-C-I. Lo-Fi Poli-Sci at planetmail.com. Let me say thank you so much for listening. Stay safe, wash those hands, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Lo-Fi Poli-Sci podcast. Pickering, signing off.